of the timeline that it took for Derek Dixon to come forward with these allegations if they're true.
Well, that's one of the arguments the defense always makes, right? Is, well, if you were assaulted or harassed, why did you stay? Why didn't you report it right away? What I love as the plaintiff's lawyer is a contemporaneous report. So hopefully they have that. And I understand he's been getting therapy since 2020.
We never saw it coming. One minute we were cheering Tiffany Haddish's unstoppable rise, the next we heard her voice crack as she told a late-night crowd that the kingmaker she once called Big Brother quietly ghosted her when she needed him most. We leaned in because betrayal is irresistible, and this one had all the juicy layers. A glamorous friendship, a near career-ending lawsuit, and a mogul with a billion-dollar smile who markets himself as everyone's favorite uncle. We kept watching as Tiffany, eyes ablaze, painted the picture. While headlines roasted her over that creepy comedy sketch lawsuit, Tyler Perry, Hollywood's self-appointed champion of black talent, hit silent mode, wouldn't pick up, wouldn't send a text, wouldn't even throw a public praying for you sis tweet. We could almost feel the phone vibrating in her hand, unanswered. Each buzz, another micro wound. And just like that, the innuendo turned savage. She wasn't only talking about missed calls, she was calling out a pattern.
Certainly be helpful, in addition to the text message evidence that we had. Sometimes victims don't want to come forward, right? You're talking about a rich and famous individual. And look at what's happened. Perry's lawyer came out and said, this guy's lying. This is a shakedown. This is extortion, right? They always go after the victim. And we don't know if the allegations are true in this case or not, but very few harassment cases are reported or litigated. And often
we sat there tasting the tension because we know how this town works. The moment Tiffany's legal firestorm ignited, talent agencies treated her like radioactive glitter, dangerous and sparkly all at once, while studios whispered, let's wait a quarter. According to her, Perry, the very man who had once pitched her feel-good scripts over vegan brunch, suddenly acted like he misplaced her number. She says she watched her bookings evaporate, her apps blaze red with news alerts, and still, nothing from Tyler. No uplift, no cameo, not even a consoling shout-out on that mega-church livestream he loves. Betrayal stings, but abandonment during a PR meltdown? That's salt on an already shredded ego. As Tiffany unpacked her story, we got that deja vu itch. Where had we heard this melody of success then silence before? Oh right, Monique sang it first, years ago, belting to anyone who'd listen, that Perry wooed her with promises, cashed in on her Oscar buzz wattage, then allegedly helped shove her off the big studio guest list when she demanded proper pay for promo work. We remember Monique pacing that stage in Harlem thundering that she'd been whiteballed by black gatekeepers with limp courage. At the time, it sounded hyperbolic. Now, Tiffany's echo makes the whole refrain hit different. Like an R&B remix we didn't know we downloaded.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
I shivered because the math started to add itself. 2 outspoken women, 2 tales of y'all got this, I'm busy, and 1 empire sitting on 300+ Atlanta acres of manicured power. If Haddish and Monique are both swearing that the Perry welcome mat curls up the second controversy lands, maybe we're not talking isolated mishaps. Maybe we're glimpsing a glitch in the matrix of Black Hollywood's most famous safe haven. So we dove into the history and found more scattered breadcrumbs than Hansel and Gretel's Instagram. For years, insiders have murmured that Perry recruits bright black stars, hoists them onto his sets faster than any mainstream studio, then forgets them once they outshine the franchise or question the fine print. Writers remember being dropped like lukewarm tea after asking for WGA contracts. Veteran character actors recall skyrocketing to series regular status, only to be quietly written out when they booked non-Perry roles. And that heroic mythology we've all repeated about him, making more black millionaires than any studio combined? Wonderful for the bank accounts, but money doesn't always buy protection.
You know, there's a short life in
Why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take you're going through so much to try and deal with life.
We can almost hear Monique's scratchy recordings she claims to possess. Tyler allegedly apologizing in private, then rescinding when she tried to share it. That tape's the stuff of conspiracy blog legends. Monique told T.S. Madison he said he was wrong, then suddenly demanded a face-to-face, without her husband present. Sounds less like a peace summit, more like a heavyweight bout with handy exit doors. We remember the quote from Perry's attorney swatting away Derek Dixon's lawsuit, "Tyler will not be shaken down." That line ricocheted around social media like a steel marble, giving us a peek at how fiercely he protects the brand.
Come forward, because if you're a victim, you're gonna have to really tell your story in a very, very public way. What is interesting, though, is under California law, he could have filed as a John Doe or a Jane Doe, and he chose not to. So I thought that was interesting.
And now the air grows thicker because fresh court filings got unsealed and actor Dixon just dusted off every skeleton in the studio wardrobe. He wants $260 million, yes, but more scalding than cash is his description of a workplace that felt like psychological quicksand. He says the boss showered him with audition invites, then layered on escaping intimate pressure once the young performer landed on the Oval. According to Dixon, refusing those overtures became a career ender. No blatant threats, only that infamous showrunner smile paired with a casual, character arcs change all the time. Translation, sign your hush clause or your role gets bumped off faster than we can repaint the Oval Office set.
You're the defense, and do you look at that he didn't file as a John Doe and say, look, this is proof that this was a shakedown, which is the term that they've used?
Look, it's interesting. Obviously, the fact that he didn't file as a John Doe, that's not an argument that the defense can make, but really, and I've sued a lot of celebrities. I'm sitting here in Hollywood right now. I've represented some, but sued a lot more. So I've handled a lot of cases like this. Most of the time, the victims will come in, and when I explain what a lawsuit entails, they have pause, right?
We winced, imagining Dixon clocking in every dawn, wondering if this episode would be his last. We picture him memorizing lines while measuring eye contact, strategizing every handshake lest anyone misread it as encouragement. We picture him alone in a studio trailer, phone in hand, debating whether to document another allegedly inappropriate move, then reminding himself he still owed rent. The pressure cooker pops eventually. He walked away, filed with the EEOC, and now we've got depositions thicker than a J.K. Rowling novel, littered with screenshots of texts that allegedly say things like, what's it gonna take for you to have guiltless intimacy? That one's verbatim. When we read it, our jaws hit the floor. If a jury believes even half of these messages, we might be staring at the biggest black studio reckoning since the Diddy raid.
Are you surprised by the evidence that's already coming out in the criminal trial?
No, I'm not surprised. I experienced some of those things. Witnessed violence.
We chalk it up to, he said, mogul said, except the timing feels cosmic. Just as Dixon's lawsuit headlines settle into the algorithm, rumor mills buzz about a 3-part expose titled Surviving Tyler Perry. Imagine the trailer. Ominous strings, archival shots of confetti at his grand studio opening, voices trembling about manipulation. Perry's attorneys are already firing cease and desist letters like confetti cannons at graduation. But remember how the Harvey Weinstein doc started with whispers too? Once one alleged victim stepped forward, the floodgates crumbled. Dixon unofficially became that first brick. Who emerges next could determine whether this empire retains its sparkle or collapses like a flimsy set wall in a thunderstorm.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
We flip through the receipts and realize Perry's glossy veneer has been scuffed before. Union clashes over writers' rooms, social media cringes at plot holes so wide you could drive the Madea family van through them. And that AI rant early this year, when he paused an $800 million studio expansion because synthetic footage might save budget on snow scenes? Some called it visionary, others called it convenient outsourcing that sidelines Black crew members he once championed. There's a growing chorus chanting that the Tyler Perry model, one man scripting, directing, and show running everything, creates a top-heavy tower wobbling under its own weight. If that tower also houses secret rooms where exploitation festers, then Hollywood's beloved rags-to-riches folk hero could morph overnight into a cautionary tale.
Referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil Astroglide.
Let's drag the spotlight back to Tiffany. She insists Perry's ghosting wasn't just self-preservation. She believes it was calculated brand distancing. In her retelling, executives whispered in Tyler's ear, "Association risk is high, boss. You're negotiating a streaming mega deal. Let this one burn out." So he allegedly stepped back, maybe thinking silence wouldn't look like betrayal, just neutrality. Tiffany calls it abandonment at her most vulnerable hour. We call it precedent repeating itself. Remember Monique at Cannes? She said she wouldn't fly economy across the Atlantic for free press events. Within a year, she couldn't snag a studio pitch meeting to save her waist trainer. She screamed, "Pay equity," they labeled her difficult, and voila, radio silence. Different accusations, same hush.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, like, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
We keep asking ourselves why Tiffany's story reverberates so hard now. Maybe because she's part of the new generation Perry publicly embraced. Edgy comedic voice, survivor narrative, mass appeal across demographics. If Haddish says the Emperor's robe is looking threadbare, younger artists might finally risk agreeing out loud. We're already seeing subtweets from background actors hinting at creepy power dynamics. We're seeing crew members recall double shifts, no overtime, just a bless you from a producer, and an invitation to the next prayer circle. It all reeks of brand burnish on the surface, barn fire beneath. We have to admit, the deeper we dig, the more the so-called one-man show mantra looks less like creative genius and more like a velvet glove stranglehold on artistic oxygen. Industry trackers whisper that Tyler Perry's refusal to hire union writers isn't just thrift or ego, it's a clever firewall that keeps outside storytellers from planting fresh ideas that might compete with his own morality play formula. Former staffers describe marathon script sessions where line notes from experienced editors vanish overnight, replaced by the original wording because any tweak feels like a trespass on royal parchment. The price of that rigidity shows up on screen as recycled plot twists, but off-screen, it registers in bruised morale and a talent pipeline that quietly tiptoes elsewhere.
They've been afraid of coming forward. They've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
We keep hearing about non-disclosure agreements thicker than Georgia humidity, documents that bar departing crew from even mentioning how many hours they logged or how little room they had to improvise. Some union advocates claim writers who pushed for minimum WGA scale found themselves uninvited from the next production roster, a soft exile that travels through casting directors faster than casual viewers can stream a sitcom. The chilling effect is palpable. Bright playwrights who once salivated at the chance to work inside those famous Atlanta gates now weigh the exposure against the possibility that any dissent could flatten their budding resumes. When creative freedom starts to feel like a liability, the whole promise of a Black-owned studio nurturing new voices turns bittersweet.
He cornered me. And then he asked me, with his arm up, he asked me, "How you doing?" I'm kind of like, wow, what the heck? Very uncomfortable. And then he rubbed his hand down my breast. He said, "If you need anything at all, you let me know."
We can't overlook how this uncompromising pipeline ripples across the acting pool too, because scripts arrive locked last minute, and often camera ready after a single top-down polish. Performers confess they're forced to swallow dialogue they know could sparkle with just a hint of collaborative seasoning. Object if you dare, and rumor has it your character's storyline curiously shrinks by the next table read. That power imbalance feeds a hush-hush hierarchy where everyone smiles for social media but privately juggles contingency plans. The irony? A studio that touts empowerment may be perpetuating the very gatekeeping it claims to disrupt, just with a different face on the gate. All of this funnels into a broader psychological twist. Perry's empire isn't merely a content factory. It behaves like a micromanaged kingdom where narrative, labor, and loyalty orbit one decision-maker. When a single ruler writes every episode, directs every scene, and delivers every behind-the-scenes pep talk, there's no courtroom of ideas, only a throne room. And in that setting, challenging a creative choice feels akin to challenging the monarch. We're left wondering whether the real hidden cost of his meteoric independence is an artistic monoculture, silently draining the color from a space that once promised boundless opportunity.
I can't win over there because I don't play. I don't participate. Like, you can't buy me, not because I'm not for sale. You can't buy me because I'm not in the store. It's different.
We'd love to chalk these tales up to sour grapes, and yes, plenty of folks swear the paychecks changed their families' lives. Plenty will testify that Tyler shook every hand on set, that his crews get 3 meals before other studios even printed guidelines. Nuance exists. Villains can be charitable, saviors can have shadows, but we're not in the nuance business tonight. We're chasing the gossip thunderstorm, and the thunder is rumbling across Atlanta's south side.
If there's brilliance in that, then I'm appreciative to that, and I'm trying to be a brilliant person, not a brilliant.
We can't forget that $260 million number, not a random figure, enough to dent a fortune rumored to hover around $1.4 billion. If Dixon settles, even for a fraction, every extra speaking role across Sistas, Ruthless, Zatima, and those dozen Amazon flicks becomes potential plaintiff fodder. Plaintiffs love precedent, the way paparazzi love ex-couples holding lattes, and that documentary crew allegedly sniffing around. They've already slapped Monster on the working title, a snarky riff on Perry's feel-good Maxine's Child tribute. Messy, poetic, blood in the water marketing right there. We circle back to Perry's latest podium moment, the BET Awards Beach Footprints monologue. He warned about erasure of Black stories, about footprints on water that can't be wiped away, stirring words, But moments later, he bragged he'd made more black millionaires than any studio in this city combined. The crowd roared. We wondered whether any of those millionaires are ready to risk their new tax bracket by echoing Tiffany or Dixon. Will they publicly clap back at allegations or hold their peace to protect residual checks? Hollywood solidarity cuts two ways. It shields and it silences.
Because, everyone cares about the reputation in Hollywood, and whether it's cancel culture or just bad press, it can force a defendant to settle. So that's a tool that you have to use if you're a plaintiff's attorney representing victims like this.
Some defenders already argue Dixon's case smells like a cash grab, parroting Perry counsel that the actor set up a scam. They note inconsistencies in timeline, highlight the raise Dixon accepted, classic "you took the money" defense. But public opinion rarely waits for trial results. The mere possibility of a real-life casting couch behind those 12 glossy sound stages unleashes decades of suppressed suspicion. If there's one lesson from Me Too, it's that reputations now rise and fall at algorithm speed. One push notification reading studio hit with additional complaint could tank sponsorship deals, trigger insurance hikes, and force boardroom whispers about succession plans. We wouldn't be surprised if PR teams booked extra crisis management sessions after lunch. Meanwhile, Monique tours arenas with Cat Williams, peppering punchlines about licking the nuts that came with the apology. Brutal, hilarious, undeniably defiant. She's turned survival into stand-up, and crowds lap it up because outrage is relatable when aimed at Goliath. Haddish, for her part, channels the pain into new indie productions, casually disclosing that she rewrote scripts Tyler once promised to shepherd. She jokes about it during podcasts, yet you can spot the flicker of scar tissue in her laugh. Watching these women convert betrayal into fuel is inspirational, but also a public indictment. Their creativity flourished the minute they stopped waiting for Perry's blessing.
Filed lawsuit accuses Tyler Perry of assaulting an actor on one of the filmmaker's shows. Actor Dixon has sued Perry for $260 million.
So where does that leave us? On the brink of a full-blown narrative collapse or a messy but temporary brand bruise? We've seen titans weather allegations before. Bank on short public memory, drop a charitable grant, repackage the next film with wholesome marketing, but combine a comedian's scathing TikTok, an actor's explosive lawsuit, a potential docu-series, labor union grumbles, and a J&J lawsuit's worth of text receipts, and we start sensing a perfect storm. Hollywood may be fickle, but advertisers hate uncertainty, and streaming giants detest negative trending hashtags attached to exclusive content deals. We suspect Perry knows the sandbox is shifting. That might explain those hush-hush meetings with crisis consultants or the absence of new photos inside his beloved replica White House lately. Maybe he's waiting out the fog. Maybe he's drafting heartfelt letters he'll share when the documentary teaser drops. Or maybe he still believes steadfast silence keeps the aura intact. Either way, we're watching. Because if Tiffany Haddish's claim sticks, if Derek Dixon's lawsuit gains momentum, if Monique finally drops that recording, and if surviving Tyler Perry lands on a streamer hungry for viral controversy, then we'll witness one of the wildest reputation implosions since the Weinstein downfall. And this time, the community will be reckoning with its own self-made tycoon. And that, friends, means every Black creative who ever posed smiling beside Tyler's custom-branded soundstage gates will have to examine whether they were collaborators, beneficiaries, or unwilling accessories.
I've not been funded. They pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about. They tell you that themselves.
We can't predict a verdict. We can't swear the allegations are gospel, but we can feel the tremor in the phantom, the hush in studio corridors, the tingle of fear on executive conference calls. We, the gossip hounds, the rubberneckers at the celebrity collision, sense a legacy dangling by monofilament. If those lines snap, the crash will echo far beyond Atlanta and into every corner of an industry that crowned Tyler Perry as proof you can own the system without answering to it. So we end here, pulse still racing, captivated by a scandal that forces us to question loyalty, power, and who gets left behind when brands turn bulletproof. Could this be the dawn of Tyler Perry's reckoning, the moment the empire's bright lights flicker under the weight of too many hushed grievances? Or will he stage the ultimate redemption arc and rewrite the narrative yet again? Drop your hottest theories in the comments, keep that popcorn handy, and until our next late night tea spill, stay curious, stay daring, and good night, beautiful people.